Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tony Pruitt Show. And if you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, you're going to really enjoy today's show. Our guest is a two-time Super Bowl champion, played in 5 Super Bowls, played in an amazing 26 playoff games, played over a span of 3 decades. My favorite, personally, knocked out Terry Bradshaw in one of those Super Bowls, and is now an author, of his new book that just come out. We're going to talk about that too. Please welcome today to the show, number 63, Larry Coe. How you doing, buddy?
Well, I'm doing good. I'm just trying to take care of myself and, just manage these last few years. And as old President Reagan used to say, he was in the autumn of his life. So I guess I'm in the autumn of my life, but I hope I'm in early September.
Isn't that the truth? I was talking. If I grew up in the greatest era of all, in my opinion, I grew up in the 70s, and we're spoiled. If you're a Cowboy fan from the 70s, we are just really spoiled. I mean, we can't even hardly make it to a playoff game nowadays, just one game.
Yeah.
And you played in 26 of those playoff games. That's amazing.
Yeah, we went to the playoffs every year except one, and we were 8-6. And so it was. I mean, we were expected to go to the playoffs, and
yeah, absolutely.
And it was, I mean, we lose playoff games, but we'd always, be in contention at the end. And the league was different back then, but I try to cover some of it in the book that I wrote. It reminded me a lot of the 1968 team. And I don't know if you read about the history of the Cowboys, but there was a book written by Steve Perkins of Next Year's Champions, where we couldn't quite get over the hump. And this was, coming off, the Ice Bowl. It's like, oh, next year the Cowboys are going to win. And I remember them interviewing Johnny Unitas in December and said, well, who's going to win between Dallas and Cleveland, first round of the playoffs? It's Cleveland. And I looked, my God, it made no sense. I mean, everybody picked us. Well, we beat the crap out of the poor teams, but we just couldn't beat the good teams. And, things fell apart. And that's what they have to do. They, players have to discipline themselves not to make so many mistakes.
Boy.
A lot of his coaching technique, but, you got to be accountable to your teammates. And, I saw the penalties. I mean, there were a few questionable calls, but most of them were flat out right. And
I agree. I agree.
I like the way they show them, and so that we can all form a real opinion.
I agree, but most penalized team in the league is ridiculous.
Yeah. Well, I personally, I don't like this, flying around and getting a sack for 15 yards and everybody jump up and down and go, the sidelines. And, that's all fine and fun in the game. But, when you're in a serious game, it's that focus and concentration. And, I used to think myself, playing defensive tackle in my later years, I'm a decision-making machine. I went into the game, working to get my agility as best as I could, and then program myself as, okay, data's coming in, let's analyze it, and let's, try to make the right play and not make, mistakes. And, lining up outside, there's no excuse for that, but, actually jump when they flinch. Defensive lineman is supposed to be trained to go off the ball in your, peripheral vision. It's the ball that moves, not anybody else. And,
right.
My first, couple of years, Bernie would holler, Ernie Steiner, my coach, would holler me the sidelines. I know I screwed up, coach, but he made a point of doing it. After a while, it's like, I don't want to hear from him
anymore. You've come a long way from Minnesota, that's for sure. Let me ask you a question. That if you'd have just hit Bradshaw just 1 or 2 seconds earlier, that might have been a completely different ball game. Don't you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And, the backup, he was a great college football player. I forget his name, but, he wasn't Terry Bradshaw. But, that was just a a perfect pass. And then, his other perfect was, to Lynn Swann, when Mark Washington spread out, and he spread out and made that other catch. And so it was two great catches, but, we physically matched them all day long. And, we were the big underdog, but, after the game, we felt pretty good about it and got back. And 2 years later, we came back and won our Super Bowl again.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think if you made that hit today on a quarterback, wouldn't that be a penalty, you think?
Oh, yeah. No, I would be I wouldn't be thrown out because, it really wasn't intentional.
Right.
But, it would have been a 15-yard penalty with a warning next time you're out.
So that
as well that they do that, but I tell you, even Troy Aikman thinks they protect quarterbacks too much.
They do, especially Brady. But don't get me started on that. So anyway, so you're from a small town in Minnesota. You played briefly in college and Air Force in Houston and then Hawaii. You were the first player taken from the University of Hawaii ever in the NFL. Is that correct?
Yes, the 16th round out of 17, but I was the very first. Right. Yes.
Were you expected to be drafted, or was that a complete surprise?
No, it wasn't a surprise because I was good enough to get a 2-year scholarship to play 1 year at the University of Houston. But I really felt when I left Houston and, I just couldn't stand, not being around my buddies. And, I'm, 20-year-old guy going on 21 and, your guy friends are so important to you. And, I left Houston. I got in my car and drove to San Francisco, shipped it to Honolulu. And I saw the guys and, oh God, it was great to be back with them. But I felt I made that move going to a smaller school that they would just forget about me. Ironically, I later find out later on in my rookie year is that Coach Landry talked to Coach Yeoman at Houston, and he gave a big recommendation for me, for him to draft him. So
really?
I was out there, and I really think that, they probably didn't think anybody else was looking. I got a call from Gil Brandt, and, one time, and he said, well, anybody else looking at you? I said, well, the coaches said the guys from the Chargers and the Rams came out, but, they really didn't do anything, but right. enough to get myself drafted.
Absolutely. Well, you were still in the 16th round, that's for sure. A 16th round draft pick playing over 3 decades, I say that's a pretty good deal. What kind of money were they paying you?
Well, contractors were $15,000, and I had a offer from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers for $10,500. And big thing was I got a $2,000 bonus to sign the contract, and so I really didn't have a job after the football season, and their scholarship was pretty partial. So I needed the money to pay off my bank loan and, kind of live until, went to training camp. So anyway,
that worked out pretty good. I was
happy with it at the time. Prices were a lot, everything was different then, but I'm just a firm believer, and so is Bob Lilly, about, this was a very exciting era of pro football.
It was.
You probably read that in the cover. And it really was. And it was everything new and fresh and, just growing. And, I believe the second, Super Bowl against Pittsburgh was the most watched Super Bowl in history, because you had 2 good teams matching up that were, strong that year.
Absolutely. So I got to ask you, my first real question was, how was it playing for Coach Landry, and what did it mean to you in your career, your life? What did you get from Coach Landry?
Everything. He just kind of reinforced my own beliefs about things and people, and the fact that he had served in the military, and I had also been in the Air Force, but he was a pilot in the military. and he was so disciplined and focused, and off the field, just a tremendous Christian man. And but he didn't have much personality. First time I went to his office was the day I retired 13 years later. I kind of laugh at. I watched your broadcast with the guard from your area.
John Nyland?
No, the other one.
Oh, Burton Lawless?
Yes, Burton. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And he was talking about, you had to hold your helmet, in practice, which was true. And you couldn't sit on your helmet.
So nobody got to sit on their helmet or anything like that?
No. You didn't see anybody sitting on the helmet during the game, did you? No, sure, no.
Two people that got away with it until he retired. The first one was Chuck Hawley, and I was the second one. And
really?
On the front cover of the book, that's exactly what I'm doing.
You're kidding. You're sitting on your helmet?
Yes. Yeah. The picture, they put the, flap of the cover to, put that deal in there. But the bottom of that, I'm sitting.
Oh, that's hilarious. So nowadays we're spoiled rotten. Like I said before, we got football on almost every night of the week. Thursday night football, Sunday night football. But let me ask you a question. How big, really big, was Monday Night Football when it first came out? Was that a big deal to the players as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. No, people came to your town. You got Howard Cosell, Dandy Don, who would, I played 1 year with, and Frank Gifford. And those guys, they were professional. And then Howard, he provided the fight, build up, kind of like, let's get ready to rumble today. And and he'd be controversial, and like Don Murray said, well, I know it wouldn't take long, for Howard to say something stupid. And then, he kind of was a precursor, of some of the other broadcasters in those days that had a big sense of humor. And anyway, it was a
national spotlight.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So did you prefer to play in the Cotton Bowl or Texas Stadium?
Well, the atmosphere in the Cotton Bowl was really unique. And I ran across so many people that were, growing up, kind of like you were in the 70s. And they would get like $1 seats in the end zone just to, put people in the ends. And, it was, it's basically, it was a, college type stadium, and they put AstroTurf on it, I think my third year. But before that, it was the third year that they did that. And, it was, it was the first AstroTurf, in September, the grass, got 120 degrees, and you always burn yourself just falling down on the grass.
Oh, absolutely. But
it was an atmosphere. And then when we got to Texas Stadium, and Texas Stadium was, really a state of the art at the time. And they had all their boxes up there, and, players kind of like it's the, Christians versus the Gladiators. And we were, we were throwing out Slaughter and all the guys, and LBJ was there at some of the games, and it was but as players actually we really learned to like the place because we had such success. We moved halfway through the year in 71, and that's the year we won our first Super Bowl,
right?
So we kept the winning record going there till about 1985 or 6. I left after 1980, but they kept going to championship games for another 3-4 years.
Right. So what's the first thing that comes to your mind when I say Thousand Oaks, California?
Oh, how the temperature was just perfect for me. And it was just just a beautiful place, and you call them mountains, they're basically hills. You'd get up in the morning, it's kind of fog, foggy. I'm kind of foggy in the morning, and then the sun would clear, and it would get a little hot at 4 o'clock, and then it would cool down, and then the evenings were just beautiful. But we always had meetings in the evening, so we couldn't just go for a walk. But
right.
It was really nice on it, and most of us, I mean, going to training camp is hard work, but a lot of us kind of look forward to going out there. And on top of that, so I went there 13 years with the Cowboys, but when I played for the Air Force Academy, we actually stayed in the Oxnard Air Force Base at the time and practiced at Camarillo High School. So I spent 15 years with one exception, University of Hawaii, went out to that area.
Well, you mentioned 1971 when you won. I'm sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. You mentioned 1971 when you won your first Super Bowl. There's a couple of things that happened that year that was interesting I wanted to ask you about. Number one was the tactics of Dwayne Thomas. Do you remember that? When he wasn't talking to anybody, supposedly?
Yeah. I mean, he was an offensive guy, so I wasn't in the meeting rooms with him. But, it was pretty uncomfortable. And, Dan Reeves, bless his heart, and, who's now passed away.
Right.
But, he did a remarkable job of communicating with Dwayne. And as far as, my roommate was Blaine Knight, offensive guard. As far as they're concerned, as long as he did his job and did preparation, they didn't give a damn if he didn't talk to the press.
But he was he was an incredible running back, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was very unique. He had a little Jim Brownish flow with the play and that type of thing. But he was an excellent cutback runner, and of course you still do the cutback runner thing, but. If you look at, Shanahan, Mike Shanahan, especially at Denver, where they'll kind of, move the ball sideways and then do a cutback and, go up the field. And that's what they did against Miami, and Miami wasn't ready for it.
And then also in 71, there was a quarterback controversy between Craig and Roger. Which did you lean one way or the other on that, or did you have a preference?
Well, they're both, good people and good friends. And, Craig was, the difference between the two is, Craig could read defenses better. He'd been there longer too. But he, poor guy wasn't that mobile. And, then he started getting the injuries. But, Roger's just like, Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers, it's that it's the guy that,
he gets it. He finds a way to get it done.
Yeah. I remember one thing Leroy Jordan said is that, and he was his roommate, Rodgers' roommate. And he said, all I can say is I'm glad he's not after my job.
I'm going to ask you another question. I'm going to put you on the spot. Which was better, Doomsday 1 or Doomsday 2?
Well, I actually say it in the book. Doomsday 1 was the better team. Doomsday 2 was the most talented team I played on. And, both were, in Doomsday 1, we were dominant without winning a Super Bowl in 68, 69. In 70, the wheels kind of came off, but we got them back on enough to kind of limp to the Super Bowl. But, you need to remember that, Craig Morton, he had injured his throwing arm, before that Super Bowl. So he wasn't 100%. And I came back from a broken arm, and Dave Edwards had something on his knee. So, but we beat the crap out of Johnny Unitas. And the worst thing, happened is they put in Earl Morrall and gave it a different tempo, and
absolutely
kind of the key to getting going.
That was terrible. Oh my gosh! So, you played in 26 playoff games? Is there tell me the different feeling there is between a playoff and Super Bowl game versus just a regular season game? There has to be a difference.
Yeah, well, we finally, know, starting in 1970, and Coach Landry, is kind of getting the hang of this too, is that, and it's helped so much for Mike Ditka and Dan Reeves. Dan was a player coach, and then, Mike just moved to coaching. He was part of the 71 Super Bowl, but just to have guys that kind of could read the tempo, and what we felt like by the beginning of December, it's time to step it up a notch. I know we have Christmas and you have families.
Mm-hmm.
You need to focus and think, and it's just a step up on intensity and concentration. And, I like that thing, people say is that, are you nervous? Well, if you're prepared, you don't have to be nervous. You're confident.
Right. Now you can still be excited, but
it comes. Yeah, you don't have to worry about that. It comes. If you're not prepared. But if you said, okay, I prepared everything we got, I'm going to give it my best shot. It's go at it and let the chips fall. And they always didn't fall our way, but I can honestly say that. We played to the finish on every game, and that game against San Francisco, where we came behind 23-13.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first time I had played football where when the coach says, just keep going, plugging, we may get a chance to win this game. And I'm more of a, analytical kind of guy and technical. And it was kind of like, yeah, coach, but it doesn't look good. I don't think we're going to do it. And then Roger Staubach came in and did it. And
he did
that was the first of his, comfort line wins. And we were believers after that.
Absolutely. I remember all y'all rolling on the turf after that. Y'all were so elated.
Lance Allworth. Yeah, I know. Well, it was emotional. Got to understand. And, in college, I played on 50% teams, and then with the Cowboys up to that, we'd won the Super Bowl the previous year, but I just didn't expect that. And I just didn't have any emotion ready for it. And, rather than jump up and down, I looked at Lance Allworth and we just, looked at each other and had to do something.
I remember that. I've seen it many times. So back in the day, I was a kid growing up, and I know things are different when you're a professional, but to me, there were rivalries. You hated the Redskins, you hated the Eagles. Today, I don't feel like there's any kind of rivalry at all with anybody. Did y'all really have a rivalry?
Oh, yeah. It was Washington, especially during the George Allen era. That was, George was a pretty good guy, and actually,
right.
Off the field, Coach Landry said he's really, a pretty good guy, but he was a manipulator. And he'd take these old veterans and, get a lot out of them, but, playing on emotion, by December, they kind of ran out of that. So most years he didn't make the playoffs. But, the year, after that San Francisco game, we fell flat against Washington. And, that got them the Super Bowl against Miami. They didn't win it, but
right.
He would play mind games, with Dyron Talbert, talking about Coach Landry and Roger Staubach and, trying to get in their heads. And, probably wasn't but if you're in the press, that's good background to promote the game. But yeah, they were our rival, and we had some games, that there were cheap shots, crackback blocks. They were pretty, brutal in those days. That were, they were legal, but
right. There's,
I guess you'd call it unethical. Now they would call it a penalty for it. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, George Allen, mentioning George Allen, he would have a quote here saying that he feared you more than Don Meredith, Craig Morton, and Roger Staubach. You've heard that before, haven't you?
Well, yeah, he interviewed me once when I was, before one of our playoff games that, Washington wasn't playing in, and, he kind of, talked about it. And anyway,
well, you pretty much own them.
Well, it's funny. It's, it's matchups, and, different teams you match up better with. And, a lot of the times, like with St. Louis, I played against, Dan Deerdorf, and, he'd win some and I'd win some, games that, I was better than him, even though he's, an all-pro player. But that's the thing about, if you're going to play in the NFL, you yourself have to believe in yourself that, you got different talents that he got, and there's no need to treat him like an all-pro unless he plays like one.
Well, you got four touchdowns all against the Washington Redskins, is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. Well, 3 in a row for my rookie year, and then had my off decade, and my final year is that last one I scored, and that was the best one because I finally spiked the ball.
His first interception, a left-handed spike, and he is no longer a member.
Got a little Hollywood in me.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book now. So, a dream. Let's see, living the dream on America's team. How long did it take you to write that?
Well, it took about 3 months. I finished my last construction job. I was building a nonprofit thing for unwed mothers, not unwed mothers, but giving job skills and get into the job market, and that was for the Baptist church. And when I finished that, I could have taken another couple jobs, and I said no, once you're in construction, you got to live it and breathe it every day. And I said, okay, I need to get done. And so I just stopped to think, man, life, I did a bunch. I ran my own business, for 48 years, and then overlapped it. And so what I did, I did the whole off season, getting ready to make the transition because, we didn't make enough money, to retire and have a bunch there. It's just we barely got enough to live on, and live a little bit more affluent than people our age, but
right.
It was something that we just had to do. And Chuck Hawley was kind of my inspiration. He had a commercial dry cleaning business, and he would get dressed fast after practice and go to the office, and I ended up doing the same thing. And, but, my wife basically, handled me not being there. And so anyway, she was a big help to do all the things. Plus we were raising, 2 kids, and which is our pride and joy, our, son and daughter, who are little kids now, 48 and 51 years old.
They're always your babies, though. So,
yeah, that's my baby girl, my baby.
Yeah. Well, was it hard for you to write the book? I mean, you started. The book covers from.
I was surprised. Yeah, I was surprised so easy. My father-in-law had wrote a book about canoeing. He canoed the whole length of the Mississippi River down to New Orleans, and he when he went across forget the name of the city, but right when you cross the Mississippi, it had a lot of whirlwinds and whatever, those little things in the water, and he damn near killed himself, and that inspired him to go on to be a preacher. And right after he did that, then he got, he had to go in World War II. And so he taught survival in Alaska. But anyway, he'd written that book, and he gave me this book, just how to write a book. And it was just the basics of doing it. And it made sense to me. I read every night before I go to bed, a couple chapters, some mystery, some are good, some aren't. So right. I felt I needed to, feel with it, and try to write it like, okay, you're talking to me and you're asking this question, this, and this kind of led to that. And, and one big help was my mother, bless her heart. She kept a scrapbook for all my high school years in basketball and football, all 13 years. So I had a reference to go back,
That's
to
good.
do the events. But the recollection of the players, I mean, I played, 7 years with Bob Lilly, and then the next year Randy White came in, and I played 6 years with him, and of course Harvey Martin and Tutel and Joe Pugh and George Andre. I mean, these were the best, all good players, good guys, and I was blessed to be around those kind of people.
And those stories are in this book?
Yes, absolutely.
All
goes
right.
From year to year. Yeah, every year, it's a new team. You have to recognize that. You aren't the team you were before, even with the same people. Things change. You got new draft choices. These guys retired. These guys came in. And in 1975, the dirty, dozen, they called it. That was the year that, Coach Landry brought back the shotgun, pass, lining up deep, like, Roger Staubach did that. And of course, every quarterback does that now.
Right.
So, it was, actually, it was used in the 50s, but he thought it was good because, Roger wasn't getting, reading the formations. And I mean, this helped him tremendously. And then they developed, plays off of that. And, the modern football these days is, that it grew off of that. And, Fran Tarkington was a great scrambling quarterback, but, he never, was able to do that. Thank God he didn't, or he would have beat us more often.
Oh my gosh. Well, listen, you played every position on the defensive line on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. I only played right end in exhibition, my first year, but no, I played, I played 7 years at left tackle, and then Tutel came in the next, or he would been there, but he took over. He's in his second year at the left end. And then I went and alternated with Bill Gregory, the right tackle position where Bob Lilly retired. And then next to it was Harvey Martin. So Bill and I, did that for 2 years. And then 1977, they were trying to make Randy White a, middle linebacker and outside linebacker. And, just before the first game, they tell him, we're going to put you at tackle. And Coach Landry, comes to me, said, okay, we're going with Randy at tackle. And okay. And said, okay. So anyway, I was pissed off at the time. And I got in. So we played Minnesota. I got in the game with 7 plays. And, Coach Stotner asked me, he said, well, you didn't been in the game? I said, no. And that's like, if you don't want me in there, then I ain't going to go. And so we'll get in there. Well, I got in there and pressured the quarterback 3 times and got, Tarkenton down twice. And we won the game by some of those plays. And Coach Landry gave me the biggest praise. And it's like, oh, that's so bad. Okay. All right. So I can start recondition my body. And frankly, by the end of the year, I was able to really contribute, because I wasn't playing every down. And in those days, everybody played, unless you had a reason to come out. And of course, now they rotate all the time.
Well, I tell you, your contribution to the team, that's one of the reasons why it has to be, in my opinion, why they were such a success, because it was just an integral part of the team. I mean, you could play anywhere you needed. And
it's in the book of what Tom Landry said about it, being the unreplaceable player. I'm not sure he said it like that, but yeah. And then, so my natural position was left tackle. And of course, that's where Jethro Pugh played. And then his last year, I played quite a bit of the time because he was, getting injuries. And then we had that experiment, with John Dutton playing left end, and that didn't go so well. Then my last year, I started the game, and then John played the run, and I played the pass, and so I was fresh enough to get that interception and get that touchdown.
No, that was great. Well, you know what? I just, I want to thank you for coming on our show. I wish you all the luck in the world. Go out and buy this book, everybody. It's going to be a good one. Do you have any closing thoughts?
No. I I think most people that enjoy this book are, people in their 40s and 50s that can remember some of it, and then of course older people and younger people. It's probably going to take them a while, to have an interest. I mean, they're busy living their lives as young people as I was, but there's a lot of truths in that book about coming from a good background of good, solid people and surrounding yourself with good people, and, learning, each step on the way to focus on what you do well, learn from your mistakes, be honest with yourself. And, I just feel blessed of the life I was able to lead basically because, I just was taught to move on to the next thing, and if it doesn't work the first time, take it the second time and just make it happen. And it's given me a lot of satisfaction to have done that and helped a lot of, younger builders and players along the way. And that's what, helps me. And I love being a team player. That was the most important thing, when I retired. And I just, just happy to have been around during that period. And I kind of feel like, a historian, because I was there. And, I got Bob Lilly, the first book for him to, kind of read and share. And it kind of given the insight of, the last 6 years without him there, to kind of know the inner side of the team of what really happened. You can observe from the outside. And I'm a big football fan. I got a grandson that's playing college football in Austin, and my son played at the University of Illinois, and I love college football, and I watch the pro games. It's a different game, but it's entertaining. I mean, pro football was made for HD TV, and it's just it's a hobby of mine. And I see the intricacies that are different, but the basics are still the same.
Absolutely. Well, I know you didn't win a lot of accolades growing, which was a travesty. I don't understand that. But I'm going to tell you, in my opinion, and from Cowboy Nation, you're a Hall of Famer in our book. So we thank you for the memories.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much. So, well, thank you guys for watching. And until next time, keep your feet on the ground and keep reaching for the stars. God bless.